Hey, everybody, it's Eddie from Tokyo. This is your cryptocurrency update from Japan. I think this story turned a lot of heads today. So we have a report that Uber, PayPal, Visa are to back Facebook's global coin cryptocurrency. Now, I just don't think I would have chosen that word to back because these three, which are actually just three of a dozen backers. I just don't, I'll tell you why I don't like the backers in a second. So they are coming to the table with roughly $10 million into the project. Now you think that with this kind of wording that they are investing because they believe in this. Well, on the 6th of June, we learned that Facebook is reportedly going to charge $10 million to run a node. A node is a server. So the fact that they are coming to the table with $10 million is going to allow them to run a node. And why would they want to do that? Well, let's take a look at one of the military geniuses, and that is Sun Tzu. And he says, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. And what this means is that if you stay close to your enemy, you will not need to fear those battles. This gentleman who lived hundreds of years ago in China used to advise leaders, and he believed that subduing the enemy without fighting was the highest victory. And we are very lucky because this master of strategy and tactic has documented his system of warfare, which is still widely read by many people all over the world seeking to think deeply about these subjects. So I invite you, if you've not explored, to explore The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Okay, and speaking of nodes, you probably remember, if you watched my last video, that I am part of that first cut of people who are being considered to run a node for the Elixxir project. And I am very excited, of course, if I make that final cut. But most importantly is this is a project that is backed by David Chaum. He wrote the first technical paper on eCash technology back in 1982. And it is very interesting. I found this podcast from very recent, May 25th, 2019. You're going to learn a lot about the history of cryptography and the use of digital money. In fact, when he started a storefront that used these cyberbucks, and there were some members who were able to, of course, shop without having their metadata exploited. You could buy in privacy, because I'll tell you one thing, if you buy anything using that global coin by Facebook, they're going to know exactly what you are doing, and they're going to use that data to sell to somebody or share to somebody, or even if they keep it internal, they will use it to build their advertising program. So don't be fooled about a centralized entity protecting your metadata. It's just not going to happen. So in David Chaum's world, he wants to protect that metadata, and he also wants to produce something that's quantum resistant in regards to cryptography. And I was trying to tell you that some of the early members of the people who were involved in getting together and learning about this were from the NSA. You can learn more about that in this podcast. And he said one thing that really hit me strong in this, and that is Alipay, which has gained so much traction in China, is really a form of digital imperialism. And I thought, aha, I totally agree. And what he's hoping to do in this project is to create more of a level playing field. Anyway, I really advise anyone who's interested in cryptography and the use of digital money, this is a project you should know about, and also listening to this podcast will bring you up to speed as to the history of cryptography. All right, I am going to show you something that got, I'm sure, a lot of eyes today. So Ripple says 14 new banks and financial institutions have joined Ripplenet. This is actually from an article that came out on Tuesday on Bobsguide, and Marjan Delatinne, who's the global head of banking, she has got a lot of good quotes in this article. And in addition to the 14 banks signing up in just the past 4 weeks alone, This is why the recent stories about the rapid growth of Ripple is starting to really be noticed. So the future of blockchain technology is centered on liquidity. And this liquidity is initially what makes the biggest mark in the smaller countries where it's most difficult to move capital. And then she is quoted as saying, experts in liquidity management are realizing now just how far this new technology can bring them. So anytime you hear about people talking Ripple and use the word liquidity, they're talking about XRP. That is for sure. And I'm going to show you an article back from 2017. This is from the Cash and Treasury Management file. And they asked a lot of questions of what are the concerns about making and accepting cross-border payments. And so there are lots of different concerns. I'm going to look at the top 4. So starting at the bottom of that fourth, it was the speed of processing. So 27% felt that this was a great concern for them. And then moving up on the list of more concern was risk of fraud. That was 37%. And then moving up even more was getting the best rates. So liquidity management requires those cross-borders payments, remittances to deal with FX, which is your foreign exchange. And getting the best rate is a huge part of being able to turn a profit for a bank. And then the number one in terms of percentage of what was felt as one of the biggest concerns was the transaction fees. So, of course, many of those transaction fees are not transparent. So you don't know exactly what the bottom fee is going to be. And I'll tell you, when you use Ripplenet and XRP, all 4 of those concerns are wiped out. And then just recently, there is something from JP Morgan, and we can see in their daily issues for FX traders in 2019, 40% have a very big challenge with liquidity availability. This is why XRP is not a scam. People who leave me those comments that XRP is a scam or Ripple is a scam, obviously they don't understand banking. They don't understand how money moves in this world, because those comments are just so telling how ridiculously uninformed the person is. Okay, so moving along, I'm going to take you to an article that talked about something that happened yesterday. So SBI Group, some of these words like bags, a key position, I don't know, just I don't know who's writing this stuff. Anyway, Mr. Kitao was given a very important key advisor position as a senior advisor. And not only that, it was the fact that for the first time, a private company manager has been given a strategic investment senior advisor position at the 17 committee group that makes up the China Investment Association. So this is the Blockchain Big Data Industry Investment Specialty Committee. SBI has a Beijing office, but the fact that he gets in even deeper is going to allow him to make more business relationship and give more opportunity to Ripple. I have no doubt about that. And so, you know, he's just one guy, and he's now going to be in the trenches along with Dilip Rao, Naveen Gupta, and Marcus Streecher. And I think you're going to see him get very active. And for people to blame the price on Mr. Kitao is just crazy. Yeah, he had a social media guy that last February retweeted an article in the price point hitting $10. That was a social media manager of his Twitter account, and people were feeling so bullish in February. And it wasn't a quote from him, it was an article that he saw. And you know, you just can't leave it to these social media managers to be the all in all truth of what's coming out of the CEO. Now, this is a company that invested in 67 projects last year. And the fact that he's now going to be part of the Ripple board and a director. I am sure you're going to see him get much more involved. And people who say that he hasn't done anything, let me just remind you that if it wasn't for SBI, we wouldn't have Siam Commercial Bank in Thailand using Ripplenet, nor would we have the South Korean bank Worry Bank. And just this year, he turned a profit with SBI VC trade. He did it in 9 months. That's just unbelievable, because we have been in the worst bear market ever. And the fact that he could turn a profit in the worst 9 months is so good. And, he's now just launched MoneyTap. It had its official first, not demonstration or test. It had its first sale just a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to talk about that in the stream with Jungle Inc. We were going to do it yesterday, and my beloved 10-year-old Toshiba bit the dust, and I needed to get this computer that's been sitting waiting in the wings for a just in case moment. I needed to get all my programs loaded, so we postponed, and then today we were going to do it, but he had an unexpected thing come up, so we are going to do it. Don't worry. And I'm going to talk more in depth about the cashless world in Japan and MoneyTap, because MoneyTap is also probably going to get an investment from Ripple. It's being considered right now, and that is for the international expansion. In terms of the cross-border use, we will see, I'm sure, XRP being utilized. There are 13 new banks that have invested into MoneyTap here for the domestic use. I don't want to go too far into that because I want to save a lot of that for Jungle's stream, but also you look at the Corda Settler and R3. Because of Mr. Kitao, they are testing XRP in the intraday liquidity with 50 banks, and that just started this last February. And in addition, the Shumishin Bank hit a record 46 billion in deposits, and they did that deal with the T-Point card, which has 67 million users in Japan, and it goes in the integration with the SBI VC trade site. So again, we'll talk a little bit more about that with Jungle, but Mr. Kitao has not been sitting on his hands, and those that blame him for the price is like the same for if you're going to blame Naveen Gupta in India that nothing's happening. It's just ridiculous. With the pricing, it's threefold. Okay, you have the OTC with institutional investors. They just hired Brianne Madigan. She is from Goldman Sachs. She was actually managing trillions with Goldman. She's going to be the lead of those international markets for the institutions. And then we have Catherine Colley, who's very busy with the institutional investors using XRP, and they are moving on the OTC so that they don't fluctuate price dramatically up or down, for that matter. We saw what happened recently when there was an OTC sale on BTC and we lost, 20% in one day? That's just crazy. So the people who are not for OTC, you have to understand why some of the markets use, including the New York Stock Exchange, why they use OTC. And then you have the retail investors. That retail investor was able to bring the price up way before even XRapid was even into play. And they brought it up in 2017 to, $3.80 some cents. And that was the speculation of an asset class that people were excited about. But since the market had such a bear market in 2018, a lot of those people who were speculating only on price, not paying attention to technology, they're gone. And they will return if they see an opportunity for price. But you need also to keep in mind that Ripple is moving in lockstep to get these banks and challenger banks, the central banks, and the payment transmitters, these smaller startup companies, to use XRP. And as that supply thins out, okay, as that supply has a squeeze on availability and the demand is increased, the market makers who really control the pricing will move the price up. It's that simple. So to blame one person or to blame anybody on the price isn't really seeing the entire picture or how the price is impacted. So anyway, okay, I get off my high horse for that one. I think, done. We are going to, move to the fluff. Whew, you're lucky, huh? I don't want to rant anymore. And today I'm going to talk about, I'm on a new computer, and so I'm still kind of learning this particular one. I'm going to talk about the concept called mottainai, and it is avoid waste for the Japanese. It's a concept that is, it's a very big concept. So it can mean many things like, oh, what a waste, or don't be wasteful. And it's said it's one of the top 7 words in Japanese, and it has been documented to be used even as early as the 1200s. It was in a story that was written about a samurai who dropped his bow in a field, and he went back on his horse to go pick up his bow, and somebody said to him, "Oh, mottainai," and he said, "Oh, well, I didn't want the enemy to see the quality of our weapon," because what his what would it be? His co-soldier was telling him is don't waste your life for a bow. But his thought was actually to protect the secrecy of the degree of quality that their weaponry had. So it's just interesting to see when it's first documented that this word was used in Japanese, because it is so Japanese. So in a nutshell, it is the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle, and respect. And that is why I want to show you a picture of my old Toshiba. This is something I bought in 2010. And I was running Windows 7. And everybody would always say, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're still using Windows 7. Well, I was practicing mottainai. And because it worked fine for me, it did what it needed to do. And the longer it ran, the more I fell in love with that computer. And I'm actually really sad. I had this other computer waiting in the wings to be used in that just in case moment. And I'm glad I did. I didn't really miss a beat. I barely missed 24 hours just to load it up with all the programs I needed. But it will be missed. And if I show you how these, let me see. Yeah, I'm still kind of learning how to use Windows 10. I'm hopefully I can get 10 years out of this computer. All right, so let me show you an example of mottainai. This is called a furoshiki. Furoshiki. And furoshiki is something that is used big time here in Japan to practice mottainai. And the fu means wind, and the ro means backbone, and the shiki means to spread. So basically, you're spreading the backbone of style and manner. Well, the fu means wind, air, style, manner. So it's very conceptual. Yeah, when you learn kanji, it's very conceptual. So it's not just one meaning. So the furoshiki is used to wrap goods, and you don't waste any paper because it can be used over and over again. And here is an example of what they look like, usually double-sided, printed on one, solid on the other. So when you tie it, it gets this beautiful contrast of combination. And then you can see it works in all shapes and sizes. Very popular to be used as a carry bag. Here are 2 sake bottles. And then, of course, you can get a rectangular or a square or a single bottle. And if you are finding this is interesting, you can go to Rakuten, which is the Amazon of Japan, and they have countless styles, shapes, colors, patterns to satisfy your mottainai needs. And This is the same company, by the way, that just is doing a big deal for the cashless world in a joint effort with the railway, the Japan JR Railway. I'll talk about that with Jungle Inc. too. Okay, everybody. Yeah, do take care. Sayonara for now. Bye-bye.